A customer pulls into your station and spends $60 filling the tank. Your price sign is visible from half a mile away. Cars arrive all day, the pumps process thousands of dollars, and the sales report makes the business look like a money-printing machine. But from that $60 purchase, the station owner may earn only a few dollars from the fuel itself. Most of the money immediately belongs to someone else: the fuel supplier, the government, the card network, the delivery company, and the companies maintaining the equipment beneath the concrete. The gasoline creates the revenue. It does not necessarily create the wealth. That contradiction explains almost everything about owning a gas station. Economically, it is not one business. It is three businesses forced to depend on one another: a high-volume fuel operation, a small convenience retailer or restaurant, and a piece of environmentally sensitive real estate. If one performs badly, the others may support it. If two fail simultaneously, the entire station can collapse. The first misunderstanding begins with the purchase itself. There is no single answer to what a gas station costs because buyers are not purchasing the same collection of assets. One operator may lease the property and run only the store. Another may own the land, building, pumps, underground tanks, fuel inventory, and business. A third may own the real estate but operate under a long-term branded fuel agreement. The logo above the canopy does not settle the question. A branded station can be operated directly by a fuel company, leased to an independent dealer, or owned by a dealer who has agreed to purchase fuel from a specific supplier. The brand may provide recognition, signage, product standards, and a dependable supply relationship. In return, the operator may accept contractual restrictions, rent obligations, and less freedom to shop among fuel suppliers. An unbranded owner has more sourcing flexibility but must convince drivers to trust an unfamiliar sign. The purchase price is only the beginning. A new owner may need cash for fuel inventory, store inventory, payroll, permits, insurance, security systems, point-of-sale equipment, pump repairs, and several months of week operations. A single fuel delivery can tie up a meaningful amount of cash. An illustrative wholesale cost of $2.50 per gallon, an 8,000-gallon delivery, represents $20,000 of inventory before considering other costs. And unlike a box of snacks, that inventory is repriced continuously. Suppose the station buys gasoline for $2.50 and sells it for $2.90. The apparent gross margin is 40 cents per gallon. But the 40 cents is not profit. Card processing fees, transportation, equipment maintenance, payroll allocation, utilities, insurance, losses, and other expenses still have to be covered. Industry figures published by NACS put the average gasoline markup in 2025 at about 39.7 cents per gallon before expenses. The organization estimates that selling the fuel consumes approximately 20 to 25 cents per gallon, leaving something around 15 cents in pre-tax profit under average conditions. These are broad industry figures, not a guarantee for any individual station. That means selling 100,000 gallons in a month could generate nearly $300,000 in pump revenue if gasoline averages around $3. It looks spectacular. Yet at 15 cents per gallon, the estimated fuel profit would be only about $15,000. Revenue measures how much money passes through the station. It does not measure how much stays. Card fees make the illusion even stronger. NACS estimated that card costs alone averaged 8.4 cents for every gallon sold in 2024. At 100,000 gallons, that would be approximately $8,400 in 1 month. On a 10-gallon purchase, the customer might assume the station is collecting a large markup. A significant piece can disappear before the owner pays a single employee. Then comes the most visible number in the entire business: the street price. Customers can compare competing stations without leaving their cars. If one location is 10 cents more expensive, many drivers will cross the street. On a 12-gallon fill-up, the difference is only $1.20, but the price sign feels like a public verdict on whether the station is fair. For the owner, cutting 5 cents from the price can sacrifice roughly 1/3 of a 15-cent fuel profit. The decision might still make sense if the lower price attracts more vehicles and some of those drivers enter the store. But now the owner is no longer optimizing gasoline profit. The owner is buying customer traffic. This is also why higher gas prices are not automatically good news for retailers. When wholesale prices rise quickly, the station's replacement cost increases immediately. But the owner may hesitate to raise the street price because the competitor across the road has not moved yet. The station can continue selling large volumes while its margin collapses. Falling wholesale prices can create the opposite effect. Retail prices may decline more gradually, temporarily widening the margin. This delayed adjustment is one reason fuel profitability can swing dramatically even when the number of gallons sold barely changes. The Federal Trade Commission has documented that retail fuel margins can vary substantially and that retail prices do not always respond symmetrically to rising and falling costs. But gasoline performs another function that does not appear in its per-gallon margin. It gives motorists a reason to visit the property repeatedly. Once a customer steps inside, the economics change. In 2023, fuel produced 67.3% of convenience store industry revenue, but only 38.6% of its profits. In other words, the largest sales category was not the largest profit engine. Inside the store, the owner can sell coffee, packaged drinks, snacks, prepared meals, household essentials, tobacco products where legally permitted, and other convenience items. Some locations add car washes, ATMs, propane, lottery sales, parcel lockers, or leased food counters. The economics vary, but the principle remains the same. Gasoline attracts the visit, while the rest of the property tries to monetize it. Food has become especially important. In 2024, food service represented approximately 27.7% of convenience store sales inside the store, but 38.6% of in-store gross margin dollars. Food service and packaged beverages together generated more than 60% of in-store profit dollars. Consider a simplified station selling 100,000 gallons and $100,000 of merchandise each month. If the fuel produces around $15,000 after fuel selling expenses and the store generates a 35% gross margin, the inside operation contributes another $35,000 before general operating costs. Now the business has approximately $50,000 available for site-wide payroll, rent or mortgage payments, utilities, insurance, repairs, cleaning, security, waste, accounting, and taxes. A major equipment failure, unusually high rent, excessive labor costs, or weak inside sales can consume that amount quickly. This is why two stations with identical fuel volume can produce completely different outcomes. One may have a strong kitchen, clean restrooms, easy access, disciplined labor scheduling, and customers who enter the store. The other may process the same number of vehicles, while most drivers pay at the pump and leave. The pumps look equally busy. The financial statements do not. There is also a risk buried beneath both businesses, literally. A gas station's underground storage system must be protected from spills, overfills, corrosion, and leaks. Owners must maintain monitoring systems, keep records, inspect equipment, and respond when a release is suspected. A leak can contaminate soil or groundwater, affect neighboring property, interrupt operations, complicate financing, and reduce the resale value of the land. Federal rules require petroleum marketers with regulated underground tanks to demonstrate $1 million of financial responsibility per occurrence, commonly through insurance or another approved mechanism. State requirements can differ or go further. That does not mean every leak costs $1 million. It means the potential exposure is serious enough that regulators require evidence that cleanup and third-party claims can be funded. Buying an existing station, therefore, involves more than checking sales reports. The age and construction of the tanks, testing history, environmental records, previous spills, permits, ownership of the equipment, fuel contract, and condition of the property can matter as much as last year's profit. A cheap station with contaminated land may not be cheap at all. Now combine these hidden pressures, and the failure mechanism becomes clear. Wholesale fuel prices rise. The owner needs more cash to refill the tanks. Nearby competition prevents the full cost increase from reaching customers immediately. Fuel margins compress. Card fees continue taking a percentage of large transactions. Cash that might have supported payroll or maintenance is redirected into fuel inventory. The owner responds by reducing staff, delaying repairs, raising store prices, or cutting operating hours. The property becomes less convenient. Lines grow longer. Bathrooms deteriorate. Customers stop entering the store even if they continue using the pumps. Inside sales fall, but those were the higher margin sales supporting the property. One pressure has now become a chain reaction. Higher replacement cost, lower fuel margin, tighter cash flow, weaker operations, fewer store purchases, and still less money available to repair the business. Casey's provides a revealing example of how a successful operator escapes this trap. The company's first Casey's location opened in Boone, Iowa, in 1968 after Service Station was converted into a convenience store. The important decision was already visible in that first conversion. The site would not depend entirely on vehicle fuel. Over time, Casey's expanded across smaller communities and made groceries, beverages, pizza, breakfast items, and other prepared foods central to the model. By April 2025, Casey's operated 2,904 stores. Its fiscal year figures expose the hidden economics with unusual clarity. Fuel produced approximately $9.8 billion of the company's $15.9 billion in revenue, more than 60% of total sales. But after subtracting the cost of the products sold, fuel contributed about $1.24 billion. Prepared food and dispensed beverages produced only $1.61 billion in revenue, yet contributed roughly $937 million before operating expenses. That is a margin of approximately 58%, compared with roughly 13% for fuel. At the average established Casey's store, inside sales generated about $842,000 after product costs. Fuel generated about $446,000. The store earned almost twice as much gross profit inside as it did from the pumps, even though fuel produced considerably more revenue. The warning sign was not declining sales. It was dependence on a category whose margin could fluctuate unpredictably. Casey's response was to accelerate its food business, grow its store network, operate distribution infrastructure, and treat fuel as one component of a larger convenience system. In 2025, same-store fuel volume increased only 0.1%, while prepared food and grocery sales continued growing. Casey's is a large chain with purchasing power, distribution centers, data, technology, and economies of scale that a single store owner does not possess. But that is exactly why the example matters. At scale, with thousands of locations, the same conclusion survives. The store can be more economically valuable than the product advertised on the giant sign. The future adds one more complication. Electric vehicles could reduce gasoline demand over the useful life of a property, but charging can also create longer visits. A driver may spend 5 minutes fueling a gasoline car, but considerably longer at a charger. That creates an opportunity for food and retail if the station has enough demand, electrical capacity, space, and attractions to justify the investment. Casey's approach has been selective. As of April 2025, it reported 230 charging points at 47 stores rather than attempting to convert every site immediately. The deeper strategy is to preserve the location's role as a useful stop regardless of what powers the vehicle. So what can an owner realistically expect? In the best case, the station controls excellent real estate, sells high fuel volume, converts drivers into store customers, develops a strong food offer, maintains modern equipment, and carries manageable debt. The owner earns operating cash flow while also controlling land that may appreciate. A realistic successful station is less glamorous. It can be stable and profitable, but it demands constant attention to pricing, inventory, labor, cleanliness, theft, maintenance, and compliance. In the weaker outcome, the business produces impressive revenue but little free cash. The owner has effectively purchased a demanding full-time job secured by expensive equipment. And in the failure scenario, excessive debt, a new competitor, road construction, a supply shock, weak store sales, or an environmental problem removes the narrow margin protecting the operation. A station can appear busy until the day it can no longer afford its next fuel delivery. That is the central contradiction. The gasoline is the most visible product and usually the largest source of revenue. But the most successful owners understand that the pumps are also an acquisition system. They bring people onto the property. The store services, operating discipline, and real estate determine how much value remains after they arrive. Owning a gas station is not really about owning the fuel. It is about owning the stop.